November meeting as written. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Next order of business is public comment. There's no one here from the public. Next item is number 3, conditional use permits, and there are no requests tonight unless we've had any latecomers. New business, election of officers. So we've got chair, vice chair, secretary, and treasurer. Anyone who's interested in any of the positions?
Yeah, I could do treasurer. If that, I mean, because I think
Could or you want to?
I could. I mean, I don't think, you know, I mean, we need people. There's only so many of us, so if the other, throwing it out there.
Unless anybody wants to fight me for the minutes, I can continue with that too. I'm guessing no.
You're kind of irreplaceable on those, to be honest. Like,
Yeah.
you know.
We've tried, it doesn't work.
Yeah, I'm sure you can handle it.
I'm happy where I am.
All right, and Doug, you wanted to be chair? No.
I think we're about to dragoon you, Scott.
What's that?
I think we're about to dragoon you, so.
Yeah. All right, so I guess, do we want to vote on that slate? So that would be Jeremy for secretary, Dale for vice chair, me for chair, and what's his name for treasurer? Kevin. Do we need to do roll or just want to just say aye? I think we're all probably in accord.
Yeah.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so the ayes have it. So that was Doug for chair. And so Kevin, that's usually, usually all that's involved there is getting the balance from Barbara Ross.
You can go for it, Dale.
I get the balance for today's meeting, and she is going to be retiring, but probably not until after next month's meeting. And then Dana said that she would let Kevin know about who's going to be taking over that. And in the meantime, it would be Tim Smith.
Yeah, you could reach out to, so if there's a gap between when after Barbara retires and before the new person, the role is filled again or the new person starts, we could reach out to Scott Smith, who's the finance director. Yep. But I will, once the position is filled with a new person, I'll make sure to connect you via email for that.
Right.
So that way, that is not a gap.
Works for me.
There are other duties like requesting disbursements and coordinating with grants,
Okay.
but few and far between.
All right.
All right, new business before the commission. None, okay. Old business, easement monitoring. We did get a report from Lily Pond, and you got that to DES?
Yep, I sent it to DES.
Okay. Any other, I don't think there was any other monitoring done.
Just, I haven't written it up yet. I can't remember what it was called, the waterfront or the river walk
Oh, right, yeah.
that you and I went
Kevin and I
to.
walked that. Correspondence regarding old business. I don't have any. Member items, subcommittee items and reports, wildlife management plan for Lily Pond parcel, that's me, and I don't have anything. Invasive plan subcommittee report, Dale Smith Kenyon.
I have nothing.
I did want to point out, I was looking over some of the handouts that I got from the NHACC conference, and a couple of the resources there, sponsors, I guess, do list some offerings for invasive species mapping and management, like FB Environmental lists of that, and that might be the only one, but I can send you their information if you're interested. That's something that, maybe just we get an idea for the cost of that and what sort of magnitude we might be able to bite off, and whether that would be a Conservation Commission, sole Conservation Commission issue, or we try to get the rest of the city involved with it. I mean, ideally, we're going to need a citywide management plan, but. All right. Exploration of formal conservation of Mallee Farm City parcel. Kevin and me, I don't have any update on it.
Yeah, no, there's still nothing for us until we hear from Fish and Wildlife. I mean, I did start to do an assessment evaluation there, or monitoring there, but there were some campsites down below the softball field, so there's some activity out there. That's really it, though. That's all I know.
Did you get in touch with Detective with
He did reach
Sunderland?
out, yeah,
Okay.
they were gonna go and try to talk to some folks, but I'm not sure what resulted from that. I'm
Okay.
sure that
I know he
occurred.
was just trying to figure out exactly where it was with you. So as long as you guys connected,
Yeah, we did.
that's the extent that I know too.
The police have been there since you notified them, right?
I believe so, yes. Yeah. So it may be a site that like a couple of us want to walk or something, just to see the extent of what we might be dealing with.
Mhm.
Sure.
All right. Yeah, because sometimes they're near the river and sometimes upland. All right, thank you. City tree GPS inventory, Doug Breyer. We did come away with actions on that from the last meeting. We were talking about maybe Granite View as a repository for the database.
Yeah, so I did look into that, and I don't think there's any way that they would house our data unless it met pretty rigorous standards. That was kind of my takeaway from that. So I don't really see that as a functional option. There may be some other places to investigate if we wanted to hold it somewhere for like open source for general public access, but like Granite didn't have any other data sets that were that small. You know what I mean? Like they had kind of the statewide inventory data, roads, conservation easements, things like that. I didn't see anything that was kind of, at the town level, like what we were talking about. So I don't think they're an option.
Okay, I'll reach out to Hampstead Conservation Commission and see what they do for storing their data. Theirs isn't, it's not a dashboard kind of thing. It's more for maps and kiosks, and it might be just stuff that they store on the back end, and not live. But I'll see what they might know. I did also find that FB Environmental does offer services for that as well. So they both ties spatial database development and management, and online hosting and web app creation. Parentheses, municipal GIS data, story maps, interactive reporting tools, ArcGIS, hub sites, and more. FB Environmental, I'll send you an email as a follow-up. But, maybe if that's not cost prohibitive, that's another way to go.
Yeah, a lot of those things are linked, right? So if we had an ArcGIS person or however that would work, those data can be projected online, like you see for the Dover tree inventory. That's ArcGIS online,
Right.
and then you can make story maps out of that. So yeah, I don't have a good sense of what's contractor would charge on something like that, but it'd be worth looking into for sure. And they might just be able to link right into the city's account if we have one.
Yeah. Yeah, I envision quarterly or monthly charge or something like that, just to keep it fresh. But that's speculation. I'll find out. And I'll send you that information, Doug. All right. And then any other old business for the commission? No? Just to round out the other offerings out there, so some other stuff we might be able to get help with is resiliency and vulnerability analysis. So thinking about the culvert reporting and any, we don't need anything fancy like a dashboard for that. Maybe we do. If we get something like a dashboard for the tree inventory, we could tack stuff into it.
They already have a dashboard.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was able to download their GIS data, and then I think I could look. It's been a long time. It feels like it's been ages, but I think I could pull up individual pictures of the culverts and the information on them from I think it was a state site. Could have been a
DOT.
Could have been even county or something.
Yeah.
But I can't remember. It was 2 years ago now.
Okay. And then a couple of other things that I was following up on from the conference. There's the LCHIP grant. Usually they're not huge monetary grants, but we do, we've got places for the money, so.
Did you say L-chip?
LCHIP, yeah. The license plate funds and then stuff that comes from wetland mitigation. I can't remember what LCHIP stands for, and they don't spell it out here. And
Land conservation heritage, right?
That I's a tough one.
I don't know the I.
Land and Community Heritage. Land and
Community.
Community Heritage Investment Program.
I got 2 right.
Yeah.
At a solid start.
So, grant round webinars start in March. Grant round for 2025 starts in March, and letter of intent is due in May. Something to keep in mind.
What are the focal areas? Like, what can you ask for money for? That's the one that does like the wildlife management plans and.
You could use it for that. Yeah, it's pretty much for us. I don't think we've talked about any projects that wouldn't potentially fall into that.
That would not.
Right.
Okay. All right. Cool.
And then, did anybody get a chance to look at the wetland priority resource tools? I sent out a bunch of links. I think it was on a spreadsheet. Some online tools that are available for assessment of whether a wetland might be present, and if so, what value of wetland it might be. So there's stuff like soil types and aerial photos, historical area photos.
I did not look at it. I don't remember it.
Well, one of the handouts from that was the New Hampshire Native Plant Protection Act NHB data check tool. That's something that I've only looked at when we gotten an application from, I don't know, like PSNH or one of the larger applications. So they'll do a check to see whether there are any endangered plants or there's also the Heritage Bureau Endangered Species database. So I think they keep data for a year, or it's valid for a year, if there's a species found there. So something that, just to see if that's flagged when we do applications. And to also keep in mind that there are special requirements through the DES for certain types of wetlands. So they have more strict requirements for a floodplain wetland on a Tier 3 watercourse. And wetlands and floodplains that include forested wetlands, fens, vernal pools, and oxbow marshes. So I'll scan this and send it out as well, because there's some good information in there.
Do you remember when you sent that first spreadsheet out?
No?
November 12th? Okay, I'll look. Oh, okay. I'll look tonight.
November 12th. All right, so for takeaway actions for tonight, I will reach out to the Hampstead Conservation Commission regarding where they might store their data, and send Doug and Dale the resource information. Granite Review's done. Were there any actions about following up with the city engineer about GIS? No.
I think, Dana, were you gonna check to see if we could get access to, or if we had a GIS person to talk to, maybe? Does that sound vaguely?
I think it is identified as Amber, the city engineer. I can discuss with her different. I don't know how much GIS stuff we do in-house, how much actually Amber does do, or versus what we have sent out for like tax maps that get pushed up into our GIS tax maps. All of those edits, we have contracts with regional planning to do. But
So maybe just seeing.
you can have a conversation with her about it.
Yeah, it can be as simple as just like, do we have access to ArcGIS through the city?
And maybe is it possible for one or more of our members to write to it? One other thing I wanted to mention was that, excuse me, Dale and I attended the last mayor's housing task force meeting, at which there was a proposal to amend the wetlands ordinance to reduce buffers and a couple of other stipulations. Dale and I went over, the rationale for the current ordinance, and I still had all the materials from when we last changed it in 2021 or whatever. Anyway, they've decided not to move forward with it. So there is a grant for zoning and land use analysis, for our regulations. I can't remember the name of the grant off the top of my head.
The HOP grant, the Housing Opportunities Grant,
Yeah.
or something. that we just received?
Right, yeah,
Yes.
council had just voted on whether to authorize the manager to,
Yes, so we received Phase 3 funding for the Housing Opportunities Grant. With that money, the intent is to look at different ways, different areas that were identified through the audit that was done, where the zoning ordinance could be, zoning ordinances and maps could be modified to allow for housing or more accessible, more attainable for people, less variances and things like that, regulations on it. One of the things is looking at if it's housing would be appropriate on Route 108, and if that is, how that would be appropriate on Route 108. And I'm drawing a blank at the absolute moment for some of the other areas, but
Is that where they were talking about using multi-use, like the upper part of High Street, further away from city? Has it got to do with that too?
the Mayor's Housing Task Force has also been discussing changes to residential commercial to allow to change multifamily from special exception to permitted. And I think they also have been discussing CI, the commercial industrial district, which is 108, changing, because right now there's no residential that is allowed on Route 108. So they had discussed at that meeting that you attended, putting that into special exception. Part of the grant is to have an opportunity to have public input and look at how it would be appropriately, if we did allow for housing on Route 108, how it could be done so that it meshed with the current existing infrastructures and development there, and then have matching housing there so that it goes with the district too.
so other than zoning maps and areas, is there anything that would impact our purview, for regulation changes, or is it strictly changing zoning types in certain locations?
Yeah, so it's highlighting, I can pull up one of the memos that talks about it. In the focus point on the audit and our grant application, we did not talk about, like, if it's the question is regarding changing the wetlands ordinance, that was not part of our scope of what we are planning to look at. This intention to look at is, one of the things is we have a lot of zoning districts. Some of them seem rather redundant, like we have R1, R1A, R2, R2A. So one of the things that is on the list of things to look at is how do we consolidate some of these zones so there's not so many zones, and so that wouldn't impact anything that's under the conservation purview, because it wouldn't negate anything that exists. Those would just be modifying like lot sizes, setbacks, and things like that, and uses that are permissible probably already, and just making it so that it's not such a piecemeal and more structured, easier to digest ordinance. But yeah, there was nothing identified specifically about modifying wetland buffers or natural resources and things like that. It was more targeted the intent is to look at our current ordinance, like all the districts, so there's not as many, and then how we could look at how residential on 108 possibly.
Okay.
Planned unit developments, things like that. But we are planning to have public input sessions. I think the goal would be something similar to a lot of the workshops we held for the master plan chapters.
Okay. What about conservation subdivisions?
That wasn't, I don't believe, specifically called out in the grant application for intent to look at. I know it's been brought up in it came up in the natural resource chapter discussion about how it could be potentially updated and improved. I do not have knowledge at the moment that is a specific focus area at this time.
Why doesn't come into play for the for housing, improving housing.
Yeah, I think more so the intent is to look at opportunities to allow more density
Right.
and things like that. Flexibility to have the density, especially we have a lot of non-conforming lots. A lot of them don't conform to allow for, even if multifamily is permitted, you can't because you don't meet the lot size requirements. So looking at how that can be addressed alternatively. I don't believe conservation, it has not been brought up to look at that ordinance at this time,
Okay.
from my understanding of everything.
All right, thank you. That's all I have. Treasurer's report. Forget it. Oh, is your mic on?
Well, the date she had written down that she sent to me was October 31st. The balance was $293,598, and 70 cents. Received interest of $2,155.23, and the ending balance was $295,753.93. I'll send you this.
Great, thank you. Well, half an hour meeting. Somebody have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All right, there's a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed. Meeting is adjourned at 6:30. Thanks, everybody.
At 6:30?